It was old and cantankerous. Our doors didn't quietly open with a nice little how do you do hiss.
It was dirty.
It was very romantic, I think. It was, for a spaceship, it was extremely romantic.
We got such a sense of this was our ride. This was the thing that kept us all together, kept us in the air, kept us flying, kept us working.
When you see the first time that Malcolm Reynolds lays eyes on Serenity, it's a love story right there. He sees it and you see it in his face. He's in love with this, and it's a real love.
The ship, Serenity, is, in a way, it's the 10th character. And it couldn't be more important. It's a character in the sense that, you know, Mal's need for this ship and what it means to him, and also how it makes us feel in a scene, is as important as what the characters are doing. We designed her very carefully. CAREY, our brilliant production designer, and I went through color charts.
We sort of came up with a color scheme, you know, starting from the engine room right through to the bridge, where we went from very hot, you know, warm tones through to sort of more even tones, to very cold, you know, blue tones up in the bridge. So it got very hot in the back, very cold in the front. You know, not only did Serenity have a character, but he wanted each space to sort of have its own character as well, which would sort of play into all the different characters in the show.
Everything was done, you know, with that in mind. It's like this room, this is the engine room. Kaylee lives here. Kaylee is about earthiness and warmth and sexuality and optimism. And so we, you know, we rusted everything up so it was a very warm brown.
Oh my God, girl. It was a great ship. We loved the little details on the ship, just that Kaylee wrote her name out and beautiful little flowers and things above her room. And every place was very specific to what was happening in that room.
Then the dining room with its little floral pattern that was clearly done by Kaylee, and a yellow, again, kind of a warm, but, you know, sort of more diffuse, so that it, you know, it could lend itself to a lot of the different stuff.
For me, the dinner table, when all 9 of us are sitting there and eating together, were and are always the most special times we were shooting the show.
Natty, I want to hear about the Natty thing.
In ours shuttle, obviously, deep reds and golds and just very lush and very sensuous, because that's, you know, her trade and her character. And also the way she and Mal are with each other is very, there's, you know, a romantic tension, and when they're in that shuttle together, it's there on the screen, in the set.
What's your game?
The bridge was Alan's. He took it and owned it.
The chair was really comfortable. It could recline. The things came up and down. And whenever we were on the bridge, I got to sit there. It's very different from other shows where the captain always sat in the chair. But the captain didn't know how to fly the ship, and so I always had to stay in the chair, so he was always just over me. There were 3 switches, my magical 3 switches I always hit. When anybody told me to do something, the first thing I did was hit these 3 switches that have no purpose. It was just like, okay, I'm about to do something, switches. They make good chicky sounds.
I remember meeting Joss for lunch, talking about things. This is after I'd got the job, of course, and we're just hanging out, and he said, would you like to come and see the ship? I said, yes, and we went there, and it was colossal.
It was very important in Serenity to, as much as possible, introduce the ship. And some of it I cut out for length, and some of it is in there. But, you know, the idea of going from place to place to show that, yeah, we did, in fact, have the entire ship built all the way 190 feet from one end to the other, so that people would really get the sense we're living here.
The upstairs was a continuous set, and the downstairs was a continuous set. They were separated on different stages, because, you know, one was above the other. But we also did that because we knew that we'd want to be shooting second units from time to time, and so it was beneficial for us to have the 2 sets separated. We had this entire structure that was our ship, so it was easy to get a feel for how big it was.
If you were to walk onto the set, you would think this might be a real ship or a real building, because there were stairs, and the stairs led to the next set, which connected to the next set.
I remember the first time I got on that set and I saw this, because it's completely open, the grating, and there are very few railings, and I was just like, I've got to run up. It feels like you're like on air, like you're not stepping on anything. That was really, really hard. I got a little vertigo.
We wanted everything to be completely exposed. We wanted to know that they were just, rigging this thing together with baling twine, and that it barely worked.
And then the effects people made it into what it was as far as what it could do.
Joss, CAREY, MEYER, and myself, we sat down to the table and basically talked about the ship and Serenity, and what is Serenity, where did it come from, how does it fly, what kind of a class ship is it, what's inside of it.
And he always knew that he wanted it to sort of have, reference the bug, the Firefly bug. I just literally just started doodling different little ships and little ideas. And
we went into sort of sketch mode, with the idea that Joss had, which was, I think this spaceship should have qualities of a bird, but also qualities of a firefly. So, with this long neck that has the ability to look over a long space, but with like a bigger abdomen that kind of reminded him of this bug-like creature, that when you see it, passing through the space, you could look at it as an insect, like something that annoys the Alliance, which plays a big role in our show. One of the things we sort of latched onto for the interplanetary travel was this idea of, of a big fusion explosion behind the backside of the spaceship that would propel it inordinately faster than anything that we have on the Earth. That would be interesting, and then we could play with the idea that, it might have a glow, which we could use as an exterior light, which would allow the ship to look like a firefly. In the early stages of developing Serenity, one of the things that we wanted to do is develop, a way for it to sort of fly through the atmosphere despite its immense size, and also land with some sort of a grace while keeping into continuity with its bird, insect-like design. So that being said, we decided that the ship would have a V.T.O.L capability. V.T.O.L is a kind of air motion that's sort of been employed by the Air Force with the Harrier jet, which basically, consists of these nozzles, these high-powered nozzles that articulate and allow the airships to take off vertically and then switch their apparatus and fly horizontally. We have the feet that would come down just like legs, and they would, ballast the entire weight of the ship, and it would sort of, as it would come to rest, these engines too would sort of come to rest and fold in just like a bird's wings, and that was the idea, that it would sort of have these, like, action like a bird. It would have this action like an insect, and made it feel more character-like.
There were times when I needed to get prepared for a scene, and all I would do was just walk through the set. I would walk through the set and just take in all the memories of scenes that we'd done in each room, and remember what it felt like, and that would be enough inspiration to get me ready to do a scene.
When we weren't shooting, we were always hanging out on the ship, so if we were doing something in the bridge and you needed to stay close for a scene coming up, everybody be hanging out in what was the ship's lounge area.
There was a little nook, the little stairway where I carry in Serenity, where I carried Jewel up as we're going up and back to the engine room. I used to go up there and just sit because it was dark. It really was a stairway that led to nowhere, but it was a really quiet place, so I'd go hang out there.
And it was, I think the name of the ship is just extremely appropriate. Everybody found a kind of serenity in the ship.
It gave all of us a huge sense of pride. I mean, it was our ship.
It's a place we all look forward to going to being, and to playing in. Serenity.